Chief Constable's on Mannin line today. If you want to get in touch, call 66 13 68. Text or WhatsApp on 166 177. Email studio@manxradio.com. Obviously, please don't mention any names of any live cases that may be happening. Don't want to get you or me into any sort of trouble. But apart from that, the floor's yours. So, Russ Foster, Chief Constable, welcome. Good afternoon.
First of all, Andy, and it's nice to be back. Thank you for inviting me.
Jolly good. We heard that in the news. Jane Paul Wilson, the Home Affairs Minister, confirming that residents are going to be invited to give their views on proposals relating to checks at ports. So we could get ID checks at the borders. How do you feel about that?
I think it's long overdue, quite frankly. We don't know who's coming and going. We don't know who's here on the island. So I really welcome it and I will support it.
I think you mentioned last time you were on the fact that you were surprised that we didn't know, that we didn't know the cars that were coming in and what have you.
Absolutely. So we've done some work together with the Department for Home Affairs, linking in with the Information Commissioners, and we are in the throes and just about to launch automatic number plate recognition, right. Certainly at the Maritime Port.
Okay, so it'll just be at the port, nowhere else?
At this stage, just at the sea terminal.
Okay. You mentioned last time again, and this comes to the security at our ports, and it's a very serious subject, and that's the subject of illegal drugs, narcotics, being imported into the Isle of Man. Can you see a way out of this situation? Because we have reptiles on the other side of the Irish Sea. We have people who are determined to bring their drugs to sell at twice the price that they can in the northwest onto the Isle of Man. What's the strategy and how far are you down the line?
Well, there's clearly a market here, and when you mentioned twice the price, it's actually three times the price for the likes of cocaine on the streets of Douglas than it is on the streets of Merseyside. So I do question whether we've actually got a public health problem here. And I think that we're only treating the symptoms by continuing to lock up those perpetrators, not only from the northwest, but certainly further afield. We've had individuals from the East Midlands, the West Midlands, and certainly around the Greater London area as well. We've had notable success, mainly because we've certainly been more intelligence-led, we've been more proactive. And of course, I've taken responsibility for the port security. We are more collaborative in terms of our approach together with immigration, customs and excise. We're working together at the ports, and as a consequence, working together, we can stop any vehicle, any vessel, any person, even any aircraft, obviously, if we're at the airport as well. So very much intelligence-led, and I think we've yielded excellent results, hence why we see the prison population burgeoning beyond capacity.
Well, that's going to be my other point. The job is full. Is that really down to you?
Well, it's down to the productivity of the collective law enforcement family. We link in with the National Crime Agency back across in the UK. We're linking with the Northwest Regional Organised Crime Unit, and we have shared assets. And collectively, together with more locally, customs and excise, immigration, we have had a real robust approach in terms of tackling that illicit drug-related criminality.
Okay, so what sort of, on what terms are you with the Northwest Regional Crime Unit? Do you speak to them often?
So my head of crime, Steve Maddox, and Chaz has also had interaction with the Northwest ROCU. They feature and regularly attend their tasking and coordination meeting. So we raise elements around organised criminality. We share the details of our organised crime groups. And we share assets both obviously in the UK but equally here. So, for example, if we're running a surveillance operation, they will assist us that side of the water and then we can pick it up this side of the water. So it's a fantastic collaboration. We've recently signed up a memorandum of understanding with both the National Crime Agency but also the Northwest Regional Organised Crime Unit.
Does Jerby need to be bigger then if you're doing all this?
I think we need to look at alternatives in terms of disposal, so alternatives to incarceration. But there does need to be an infrastructure to support those alternatives for custody, or alternatives to custody, I should say. But quite frankly, we will continue in earnest to attack that level of criminality. And I think we do need to build another wing up in Dewberry, or have alternative accommodation for perhaps the lower risk offenders.
Okay.
And I know this is something that the DHA are exploring.
Something you've mentioned before, and I just want to explore that. You were talking about alternatives to incarceration. So you can either restrict the supply or eliminate the need for drugs. So what do you propose?
Well, I think certainly in terms of users, and we do have this already on the island, is our drugs of arrest referral scheme. So if we have individuals who are habitually abusing drugs, they are stopped, they're checked, they've got personal use on them, we'll arrest them, they'll come into custody, and they will have the option of being progressed through the drugs arrest referrals with a view to trying to provide some sort of abstinence from their habitual habit. But clearly, if they continue to come to our notice, then there will be no alternative but to prosecute them.
Okay, let's get to the lines now. Howard's with us on Mannin line. Hello, Howard, you're live with the Chief Constable.
Hello, Andy. Good afternoon, Chief Constable. What I'm going to ask, and it'll seem trivial, and people will say, oh, there's more important things, but crime has got to start somewhere. And I've noticed since the DOI done away with the way the license plates on vehicles are presented, they've taken the hyphen out of the lettering and the numbers. Because I was up at a place one time, somebody's getting one made, and I said, surely that's illegal. No, they've changed it. So I'm seeing the proliferation of personalised number plates, letters and numbers juggled round on the number plate, so that they're either making up a peculiar name or somebody's name. I saw one the other day, and it virtually spelt, if you read it, the person's name. And a lot of these do not have where they were manufactured. So if you in both points, the actual layout of the plate and the fact that there's no manufacturer on the plate, which is part of the system, what is the stance on that? I know it seems a trivial thing, but somewhere crime starts. And this is one thing where people say, well, I'll do it, and nobody will bother. Well, that is a lead into crime further up the tree.
Okay, Chief Constable.
So, Howard, good afternoon. Firstly, clearly the number plates need to be legible, they need to be of a certain size, and they need to be the right colours both front and back, and I absolutely agree with you. And they are actually committing a moving traffic offence, and certainly I'm sure my officers, whether or not they're from the roads policing unit, even my patrol officers, if they do witness such activity, then I'm sure some of them are listening today. The message from the Chief Constable is to stop them and give them a vehicle rectification notice. And if they fail or continue to use their vehicle with those defective number plates, because that's what they are, then they'll be prosecuted.
Howard?
Yeah. Yes, because there's all talk now of automatic number plate recognition. I've seen a fellow, and I've spoken to Andy on his programme here, various parts of the island, although I don't think it's legal yet, but will that have an effect on the ability of the system to read these number plates and find out who they are?
Yeah, good point, because aren't there some number plates that you can't read them or something? They use them to combat the traffic cameras on motorways in England, that they can't read them. Ghost plates, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if we come across them, Howard, then as far as I'm concerned, they're attempting to pervert the course of justice, and that is clearly a more serious offence. But you're quite right. I mean, the automatic number plate recognition technology takes an image of the number plate and then it links to the police national computer as it stands at the moment. So they do need to be legible. So I do think it's in our collective interest to have that nudge theory around encouraging people, if we do see them, members of the family, friends, etc., to make sure they've got legal number plates on their vehicles. And I'm sure when we do our proactive operations together with the DOI, together with Customs and Excise around dipping the diesel tanks, that they'll pick that one up for us.
Okay.
Is there nothing that you can do in a joint effort with the traffic wardens, because they are on patrol continuously. I know the police have a lot more important things to do in a sense, but the traffic wardens are there primarily for traffic, and they can see these, and they might not be able to bring a case against it, but certainly notify it to the police, who can bring a case against them.
Howard, I'll take that forward with my roads policing unit sergeant, and he can have a look at that and engage with the respective commissioners and the city council with a view to making sure we've got that sharing of intelligence information for you.
Okay, thanks, Howard.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Thanks.
Good to hear. Okay, it's 16 minutes past 12 now. Here's a message. We're talking about ID and showing ID. Here's a message, and Des says, can't bad actors get fake ID?
Yeah, of course they can, but that's around us being in a position where we can check the authenticity of those documents. So we've mentioned around Aer Lingus recently requiring passports to travel over to Ireland, which again I do support and really welcome. And I know the Department for Home Affairs are going into consultation around the ID, looking at what is going to be acceptable, whether it's a photographic passport, driving licence, and of course people raise the issue around those who don't have driving licences or passports, and I know the Chief Officer of the Department for Home Affairs is looking at alternatives. But I think, you know, if we've got someone who we have some suspicions around, we'll have that human intervention as well anyway, Andy, going forward.
Okay, a message in now from Rosie, who just said, will you ask the Chief Constable if he feels that maybe he comes over as being slightly high-handed in his approach to policing on the Isle of Man, saying things like stamping on the neck of the snake when referring to drugs problems seemed a bit incendiary. Also, is it absolutely necessary to dress our police force as though they were in the SAS, in all black with stab vests and laser guns hanging from their belts? We see it regularly. Now, Rosie said, I'm no fool. I know the Isle of Man has its problems, and we need an effective and efficient police force, but we're one of the safest places in the British Isles. This is because of the excellent relationship we had between police and the public over many years, with excellent chief constables who understood the Isle of Man. I feel we're drifting into an us and them situation where the respect and understanding between the police and the public we once had is being replaced by fear and mistrust. Do you recognise that, Chief Constable?
I recognise around us being the safest island in the British Isles, because not only are we the safest island in the British Isles, we are the third safest place in the world behind just Liechtenstein and Andorra. Coming back to that incendiary language around stamping on the neck of the snake, I think I actually said keeping the foot on the head of the snake, which I'm alluding to the higher echelons of organised crime groups. I think rather than heavy-handed, I think I'm proactive. I'd argue I'm quite robust as a Chief Constable, so if that's a criticism, Rosa, then I accept that. Yeah, I take my job extremely seriously, and I will do all I possibly can to ensure this island is safe and secure. In terms of dressing our officers in black uniform, well, that uniform is a National Home Office standard. It's ubiquitous across UK policing, and it stands here because we clearly get a discount in terms of that. But that's not the reason why. It's a national police uniform. It's recognised. We are part of the British Isles, and in terms of being dressed in black, that is the uniform. We do have white shirts. I wear one for ceremonial purposes. But as I say, a national uniform standard. It was certainly in place before I arrived here in the Isle of Man Constabulary. I think we can take it back to around 2019 when that standard of uniform was actually introduced to British policing. The relationship's a really interesting one because crime is relatively low in the Isle of Man compared with other jurisdictions. That doesn't mean that we have no crime. In fact, we have the whole plethora of different criminality, including the most serious high-end. But we also have an outstanding positive outcome rate, a detection rate of around 55%, which is better than any jurisdiction across the UK and also the other Crown dependencies. Now, you talk about the relationship with the communities. Yes, my officers have a part to play in terms of their skills, in terms of being outstanding investigators. But equally, I do think, Rosie, it is something around that relationship that policing, law enforcement do have with local communities to identify perpetrators and to cooperate with us in terms of a prosecution and bring them to justice. So I do think there's something in that, and I quite agree. But I'm not one for developing a us and them situation. I want us very much to be visible, accessible and responsive within our local communities. And again, it's one of those peeling principles, isn't it, around the public being the police and the police being the public. And I think that is very much the case here on the Isle of Man.
You've been a police officer for how long now, Chief Constable?
33 years.
Okay, so you knew the world when it was in the 1990s, in the 1980s as well. And you've policed in rural areas as well as in urban areas. The Isle of Man, to all intents and purposes, is a rural area. So can you understand people being a little hesitant about stab vests and tasers?
Well, I can, but equally, I do have to provide a safe system of work for my officers. And we have had the proliferation of knife crime, and we've also had assaults on our police officers. And I am required to offer them a level of protection. And again, regardless of jurisdiction, I've mentioned before, whilst there's low crime doesn't mean no crime. And, I make no apologies for providing my officers with a safe system of work. I encourage them to wear a stab vest. In fact, if they weren't wearing a stab vest and something happened, then there would naturally be a referral, perhaps even the health and safety executive, in terms of not providing a safe system of work. And again, I don't want them walking around without a stab-proof vest on. I want my officers protected. In terms of tasers, it's a less lethal option. Not only have they got tasers, they've got their incapacitant spray, they've got handcuffs, they've got a baton. Historically, police officers have certainly had a baton, but they are subject to violence. They do need to protect the public, and they also need to protect themselves. Without being able to protect themselves, they can't do the former in terms of protecting the public. So again, I accept what you're saying, but I'm afraid that's where we are within the society we live, whether we're here in the Isle of Man or in rural, urban, residential parts of the UK.
Okay, talking of officers as well, you mentioned the two words mass exodus a couple of weeks ago. A mass exodus of officers.
Correct.
Is this through retirement?
Well, predominantly through retirement in terms of how we use our HR intelligence to determine our levers, certainly over the next 5 years. So when I took up post on the 1st of April 2023, we were 24 officers below our funded strength. Now, we've continued to recruit in earnest, so we've retained 38 student officers in the last 3 years, as well as encouraging and securing the services of 6 experienced officers who have transferred over from the UK. But during that time, equally with Emirates staff through natural attrition, so they come to the end of their pensionable service, some have decided that policing isn't for them, and again, some of our student officers have quite simply not made the grade, and they've chosen other employment. So whilst we've recruited, we have lost, but at this point in time today, and it's also subject to fluctuation as time progresses, but we are just 9 officers below our funded strength. I anticipate by May we will be up to our funded numbers, but it's taken us 3 years to get there. Over the next 5 years, Andy, we are scheduled to lose circa 40 police officers across each and every one of the ranks, including me as the Chief Constable, 2 of my superintendents, a number of the chief inspectors, and when we talk about sergeants and constables, it's ubiquitous across all the specialisms, and I am concerned in terms of losing that experience, but also those specialisms that we deliver across the Isle of Man. So we are going to continue to recruit. It's going to be a perennial challenge for us as we progress over the next 5 years. I'm mindful we have got talent in the organisation, and it's my job to develop that talent and bring it through the organisation. So we do have a succession plan going forward.
What would you say to young men and young women who may be listening to this who think, I fancy a job in the police force? As you say, the pass rate is not phenomenal. So have some people got the wrong idea about the police?
Well, I'm not sure, but there is a challenge, isn't there, in terms of the Isle of Man. Bearing in mind we've got a relatively low unemployment rate. It's about 0.6% of the population, which last figures were about 705 people. We've also, at this moment in time, got around 248 vacancies across the job centre. We've got other law enforcement agencies, other emergency services, who are fishing in the same pool for the same talent. Now, we had a real issue around the starting pay for police officers. We've got something called reciprocity with the Home Office in terms of pay and conditions, so that means they're the same as the UK. The starting pay for a police constable was around £28,500. So with negotiations with the Department for Home Affairs, we agreed to increase that up to spinal point 4 on the pay scale. So we've still got that element of reciprocity with the Home Office, but we've increased it to just over 35,000. That has certainly changed the profile in terms of when I've opened the cohort of student officers up at Port Erin Training School, we've attracted people who are mid-service in other professions, people who have got higher education in terms of degrees. So we are certainly in a much stronger position and are more competitive with both the public sector but also the private sector as well. And the other thing is, after 3 years, their pay increases to just over £50,000. So it's certainly more attractive. What we've also introduced is a rejoiner policy as well. So those officers who do come to the end of their pensionable service, decide to retire, what we've done is try to encourage them to come back, having obviously taken their pension, which they're clearly entitled to. So we're then retaining their services in the organisation, but equally providing our officers time to develop their skills to ensure that they're more competent as police officers going forward. Now, we've been over to the UK to try and encourage existing experienced officers. So we've done pop-up workshops in the north, in the Midlands, and also down south. We've also tried to recruit locally, and we've had pop-up recruitment campaigns in and around the island. And what I would say is 1:30 p.m. If you are interested in joining, we'll be at the Lodge, the Learning Education Development Centre on Braddon Road. So if there's anybody who is interested in joining the Isle of Man Constabulary, which is a job like no other, no day is the same. The variety, the challenge of being a police officer, and that responsibility of keeping this island safe and secure, then I'd really welcome you to attend and then look at joining the Isle of Man Constabulary.
Is there an upper age limit for recruitment for police officers?
It's around 60 nowadays. So we used to recruit people on a 30-year contract. Through government changes around pensions, that's now 37 and a half years. But I've certainly had individuals who are in their 50s who have joined the constabulary and have been extremely successful. They bring that life experience, Andy, and you can't put a value on that.
OK, we'll be back with the Chief Constable in just a few moments' time. Get in touch, text, email, call and WhatsApp.
My everyday used to feel fine. Now it feels elevated.
Better decisions, better outcomes.
Support when I need it, freedom when I don't.
With no monthly fee, dedicated relationship management and a world of global benefits, HSBC Premier is designed to elevate your everyday. HSBC, opening up a world of opportunity. See website for details. T's and C's apply. In the Isle of Man, HSBC Bank plc is licensed by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority and is a participant in the Isle of Man Depositors Compensation Scheme, as set out in the Depositors Compensation Scheme Regulations 2010.
Concerned about your hearing? Get the support and help that you need with an expert hearing assessment free of charge at Island Hearing in Port Erin or Ramsey, with microsuction wax removal available in our Port Erin clinic. Island Hearing have been your local hearing care specialists for over 15 years. So for friendly, professional help and advice, just call 830 722 or visit Island Hearing at 1 Station Road, Port Erin. Island Hearing, always listening.
SMS Trading. New and second-hand furniture from flat pack to fully built. See our range at 3 St Paul Square, Ramsey. All island delivery and man in a van service available. Call SMS Trading on 315151 or find SMS Trading on Facebook.
Stock arriving weekly at Ramsey Garden Centre. Discover potted spring bulbs, summer bulbs, seed potatoes, onion and garlic sets, wildflower seeds, sweet pea, microgreens, plantable biodegradable pots and propagation essentials. Grow smarter, greener, season after season with Ramsey Garden Centre.
A ground source heat pump can save thousands of pounds a year, and you can harness this energy on island with Geothermal Limited, the water borehole experts. Visit drilling.im and see how a ground source heat pump borehole works. That's drilling.im.
3 matches unbeaten and confidence high. So, can FC Isle of Man add to this good run of form in the NWCFL Premier Division this weekend? Next up for the Ravens is a home encounter against Abbey Hay, with the visitors hunting important points in their quest to avoid the drop. Join me, Rob Pritchard and Tony Mepham for FC Isle of Man versus Abbey Hay, kicking off at 6 p.m. this Saturday. Manx Radio will be bringing you full live match commentary on our DAB and AM 1368 channels.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And the Chief Constable, Russ Foster, is here. Just before we get to the call, just very quickly, if I may, Chief Constable, this is from George, who just said, why are police still allowed to retire at the age of 55, I believe, and yet the government's raising the retirement age for everybody else to 67 and possibly up again? That drain on reserves of police officers having an extra 22 years pension must be enormous.
Well, it's enshrined in police regulations, and I'd stop it there, quite frankly.
OK. And Juan's with us. Hi, Juan.
Hey, Andy, how are you? Good afternoon, Chief Constable. How are you today?
Good afternoon, Juan. Are you well?
I'm very good, thanks, Russ. Thank you. Just a couple of observations and a couple of questions I'd like to put to you. Congratulations on your recent quite big hauls with people coming over from England with drugs. It's always been an issue I've found over here dealing with children and the drug issue and the mental health issue, which has been going on for quite some time. And I also understand, the bigger problem we've had in the last 4 years, obviously with gaps in our backdoor of our legislation, which is obviously down to Home Affairs or AGs, which has put a massive welcome all sign above the Isle of Man, which is the problem that we've got now, I think, which doesn't help you. I understand your points of wanting to keep the island safe. My first question would be, on the ANPR and facial recognition, I approached Jane Poole Wilson about this 2 years ago at a government conference. And this is just copying what's happening in the UK. That's basically what they're doing, is following the remit of the UK, because that's happening in cities over there. But would it not be better to have the ANPR and facial recognition on the port side at Heysham in Liverpool? Would that not give you more time to vet who was coming here and be able to do your due diligence while they're travelling, and stop the problem before they actually got from the port anywhere else?
Okay, Chief Constable.
Absolutely, Julian, I'm with you. So we have got ANPR both at Heysham and also at Liverpool. We need to develop it around the facial recognition piece, because the inhibitor there is the legislation here in the Isle of Man. Interestingly, I've had a recent conversation with the Director of Immigration Enforcement over in the Northwest, and I've opened those discussions with him around facial recognition, live facial recognition, at both the ports over in the Northwest. So I'm going to develop that with him, because you're quite right. We perhaps will need the legislation changes here, because they've already got the law, the legislation, which enables the use of live facial recognition. And I know that the Home Office have certainly supported a number of forces with live facial recognition mobile vans, and basically it's a camera, it's a computer linking to the police national database, the police national computer, and they develop a watch list, and if the people on there who are wanted, registered sex offenders who are breaching their condition, then we can have that human intervention. So that is something I'm exploring, but equally I do think there's a requirement here on the island around facial recognition. We don't know who's coming and going, Julian, we really don't, and we need to understand who's coming and going. Once we identify who they are, what threat they present, I assure you, I can ensure that there's appropriate mitigation in place to manage the threat that those individuals pose.
Okay, and your second point, John?
Yeah, I see your points on that, Russ. I think we just had to be mindful of the change of character of the Isle of Man. And I know you've got a big job with what's going on at the moment with the UK and all the migrants. I don't envy you the job at all. My main point today was about the armed police unit. And again, I understand there's a need for it, and that the response times, I get all that. I just wonder, are we doing signalling here and sending messages out when the armed police are in really places that there's no need for them to be? I'm looking, without going into any detail, obviously, of the viral video of the police going onto the bus in the last incident in Ramsey. And it was concerning that your officers were in a very close proximity of the general public with assault rifles. When you said already there before that you've got sprays, tasers, handcuffs and batons. None of them were used. And it worries me that, if you're carrying a gun and there is a discharge, where are we going to go from there? And I mean, the amount of older people that travel on the bus, they want to have a day out. All of a sudden, they're getting. You've got your guys coming on there who all look like military and masked, so all you can see is their eyes.
Let me unpick, because there's quite a few elements in there, isn't there? So, just in terms of the armed policing element, so we've always had armed policing, but they've not been perhaps as forward-facing as they are now. So I came to the island, I undertook a strategic threat, arm and risk assessment, something that we call a STRA, to understand the threat to the island. And not just unpicking some of the challenges on the island, but looking across the piece in terms of other incidents that had occurred in sort of leafy suburbs of the UK, including Scotland. And there was a job in the Isle of Skye whereby an individual stabbed his wife, shot dead her brother-in-law and attacked another person, and the response was wholly inadequate from Police Scotland in relation to that, and that only occurred in 2023. That could occur here, Julian. We do have a high proportion of firearms on the island. We have a high proportion of people with mental health issues, and that combination alone is a challenge for us. Equally, we do have organised crime groups that we have scored and mapped who do have access to firearms, and we need to be in a position here in the Isle of Man to respond to that. And when you say you see the armed officers in places that you wouldn't ordinarily expect, their first role, their primary role, is around being a response officer. What comes secondary is the fact that they have merely got lethal and less lethal tactical options on their person or in their vehicle. So that's the reason in terms of that positioning. So let's just unpick the face mask perspective. I've mentioned around a duty of care to my officers. Let's just think around this microcosm which is the Isle of Man, and let's just think about the promulgation of material across social media. It's there within seconds. We've seen this numerous times. It's commonplace. If there was such a discharge, officers are entitled to anonymity. And they're entitled to anonymity because there has been incidents whereby, not here, I accept, but where the identification of officers have been made by organised crime groups, and there's been threats to life, which I have personally managed, albeit in another jurisdiction, in terms of threats against those officers' lives and their wider family. So I've hit the reason head on there. I really have. So the masking is so those officers do maintain their anonymity. We are a very small community. As soon as they be identified with their faces, people would know who they were. So that's the reason. And as I say, the incident on a bus, I don't want to go into too much detail, but presented intelligence information that there was a threat. Not only a threat to the public, but equally, when we have that contact with individuals who are possession of lethal weapons, whether that's a firearm or a bladed article, then we need to be in a position to mitigate that threat. And again, we're there with the sidearm. That sidearm is part of a standing authority authorised by me, which presents that officer with a level of protection, firstly and foremostly. Secondly, they are equipped to respond more effectively rather than stopping the car, getting guns out the gun box and then going to the scene of a crime. In addition to this, and again this is going to be controversial and this is going to end up as a headline, clickbait on social media, they also need to protect the vehicle when they're away from the vehicle that does contain other firearms, other less lethal options. So if someone was to take the car, then they'd be in a position to respond with a sidearm. If they are in Tesco's getting the lunch and God forbid a robbery's taking place, they are in a position to respond. And that is the top and bottom of it. And again, Julian, I know full well there will be criticism on social media. This will no doubt be on Isle of Man News and Politics with a whole stream. And if it is, so be it. There's my explanation based on fact and evidence, and that's the top and bottom of it.
All right. Thanks, Juan.
Can I just make a point just before you go?
Very quickly, if you want.
I appreciate what you're saying, Russ. I have a lot of friends who are in armed police units. I'm in an area at the moment where there was 19 murders within 10 days. I know what you're saying, but you did make a point there that the stuff that you said was not on the island. So we just ask you to just be mindful of the older people and the pensioners that we have on the island, and the way that it looks to them in your response to anything.
Okay. Right.
Thanks for your time.
Thank
you.
Okay. Yeah.
To that, Julian. So just in relation to that, and you're absolutely right, and I think the issue is around socialising this concept. So my head of armed policing, my superintendent who's in charge of all things uniformed operation, Danny Rothschild, he's certainly hosted a number of meetings with the more mature population of the island, let's say, and so have I. I've gone to different organised groups whereby I've presented our response, the rationale in terms of why we've repositioned our armed officers. So we are doing as best. Again, this is a great opportunity, and we will continue to engage with the public around this quite controversial issue. But again, I don't want to preside over an attack here in the Isle of Man where a member of the public loses its life.
Okay. Well, what do the older population say when you go and meet them and explain why there are armed police officers?
Well, I mean, being really balanced, I do think there's a mixed opinion around this, but I can only give my explanation.
Right.
Other people are entitled to their own opinions, and, I'm not being critical of that.
Okay, 017 texter says, armed police have been patrolling London City Airport for over 10 years. The same if you visit the Houses of Parliament. We need to modernise. It's 2026. And Stephen, hello Stephen, you're live with the Chief Constable. Hello Stephen.
Good afternoon, Andy. Good afternoon, Chief Constable, and good afternoon, listeners. If I may, I'd like to take a differing view to the one that your narrative is setting up over the requirement for identification on the ferries. And some point I'd like to make, such as you have so rightly said a few minutes ago, that we are the safest jurisdiction, certainly in the United Kingdom, possibly including Ireland, and probably the greater part of Western Europe. So I think that's well done. It's also a mark of a stable and law-abiding society that the Isle of Man is. So I presume it's you that is pushing for ID to be shown on the ferries. Is this right?
Yes, I've raised it as a concern. And again, if you have got a different view, then there'll be an opportunity through the consultation to make your own representations.
Well, I have no faith in consultations, to be honest. So let me make that quite clear to start with. And I have no faith in the ability of politicians to say no to you. This is a step too far. It comes across to me that you're a very authoritarian police officer in your thinking and how you want to police the island. But the point I'd like to make is that the UK has recently rejected the idea of people carrying ID cards. And this, what you're doing virtually is you are making a checkpoint Isle of Man by points of our entry, which we've never had before. So, this is de facto saying to the people of the Isle of Man, you have to now carry ID cards. And it's not something we've ever done before. It's been rejected. I wholeheartedly am against the idea of a police officer saying to the public, papers, please. So, I think that you're coming across as you would like us all to carry ID at all times.
Okay, Chief Constable.
That's incorrect. Stephen. I'm not saying you carry identification at all times. I'm saying that as part of a condition of travelling on the different passenger carrying services to the Isle of Man, whether that's by sea or whether that's by air, that you should be required to carry some form of identification. Now, if you're outside the common travel area, that's required anyway. And I accept in terms of the legal basis, because I've made these inquiries, I've spoken to the Common Travel Area Policy Office within the Home Office, just to have an understanding of what is the barriers in terms of legitimacy and legislation from preventing this over here in the Isle of Man. Stephen, understand I've got an interest in trying to secure this island. I want to know who's coming and going because I want to keep us safe and secure. That's my only motivation. And I've listened to your perspective, and that's a matter for you. I've got a differing one, and we're going to have to agree to differ, I'm afraid.
Stephen?
Well, thank you for that. I can only hope now that our politicians don't go wholeheartedly in hand with you, but I think that has already happened. And I can only say that this is mission creep, and it's Big Brother watching over people wrongly. Sadly, on the island, we don't have a history of civil liberties groups whatsoever, and we're a fairly right-wing society. So, sadly, I think you're going to achieve this, but I think it's mission creep, and it's Big Brother watching the citizens.
Okay, Stephen, we appreciate that call and the points that you've made. Thanks for that. Steve dropped a note in 806, said a reasonable and informed explanation of the deployment of armed officers by the Chief Constable. People who criticise these deployments are exactly the same people who were first to criticise if something happened and the officers weren't able to respond. And a note in from 553 says the Chief Constable is right to have the protection of his team as a priority. The community needs to realise that the police have family and also need to be kept safe. And I think idea is an excellent idea. About time.
Manx Mobility in Onken have it all. Daily living aids, wide-fitting shoes, rise recliners, beds and scooters, including lightweight and airline-approved models. Call in and see how our expert team can make your life easier. Manx Mobility at the top of Summer Hill.
Visit Ramsey Art Gallery for a fabulous range of top brand watches and stunning gold and silver jewellery, gifts for all occasions, and of course our gallery of prints and original artworks. Find all this and more at Ramsey Art Gallery, Jewellers and Engravers, opposite the RNLI shop.
For a wide range of wood-burning stoves and a complete installation service, visit The Snug in Ramsey. And we don't stop there. Kiln-dried firewood and full aftercare service, including chimney sweeps and maintenance. Call The Snug in Ramsey.
Cozy feet. Now there's a treat. And with a luxurious new rug from Lifestyle Furniture, your rooms will be as happy as your toes. With thousands of designs and colours to choose from, you'll find the fabulous floor covering you've been waiting for. Bold and beautiful, traditional and elegant, minimal and gorgeous. The rug you love is at Lifestyle Furniture. Find us at Snugborough Trading Estate, Union Mills. Open 7 days a week.
Top of the Tops, brought to you by the Print Shed. At 5 is Hospitality, a wide range of aprons, kitchen uniforms and front-of-house clothing unique to your business. New entry at number 4 is our eco-sustainable and organic ranges. At number 3 is Workwear. Be safe, be seen and get your brand recognised. Sticking at number 2, Sportswear, names, numbers, sponsors, logos. We do it all. You pick the colours and we'll do the rest. And at number 1 is Corporate Wear, embroidered or printed, professional and stylish. Find us at theprintshed.iom.com, on Facebook or at Braddon Bridge Industrial Park.
Are you a small charity here on the Isle of Man? Are you looking for volunteers, hoping to raise awareness and chasing those crucial pounds and pennies to support your work? Well, Manx Radio can help. You could be our next 1 to 3 Charity of the Week. With daily on-air coverage, podcast and social media promotion, we can help support you and those you help. Just email the numbers 123@manxradio.com and listen out for the feature each weekday between 1 and 3 p.m. The Charity of the Week, brought to you by Kell Properties.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And the Chief Constable is here. We've got tons and tons of questions to get through, which we're not going to get through today. So there is a provisional date for you to come back at the end of July, if that's okay.
Brilliant. Look forward to it.
Because we haven't even touched on Bullgate yet or police complaints. But Nikki dropped a note in and said, you're talking about the UK. What about Ireland? The steam packet's going to Ireland. How will you govern what happens with our Irish visitors?
An increasing challenge, so you're quite right. We've already had an audience with the Garda Síochána over in the Republic of Ireland. We've already had an audience with the Police Service of Northern Ireland, just to make sure we've got the intelligence flows in place, and so we can manage any potential threats emanating from Ireland. There are some significant vulnerabilities in terms of that crossing to Ireland that we need to be sighted on. We need to work together with partners across customs, excise, immigration, and the two police forces that I've mentioned to make sure that we've got an handle on that, Andy.
Because we, and again, it's funny enough, I was watching a programme about the gangs in Dublin. We could be seen as a happy little quiet countryside little island in the Irish Sea, and people may be spotting opportunities. If they spotted them from the UK, they'll certainly spot them from Ireland.
I'm seriously concerned.
Okay. Does the steam packet know that?
They do indeed, yes. I've had an audience with Brian Thompson, and this is certainly what's informed the debate around the carrying of ID, to be frank.
Okay. Mark's with us. Hi, Mark. You're live with the Chief Constable.
All right, Andy. All right, Chief Constable. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Mark.
Good. Quick question. As the police on the Isle of Man, have you gone very soft, very easy going on motoring offences?
No, I don't think so. Do you want to give me an example?
Yeah, I'll give you a very, very good example. Where I live, there's a vehicle that was brought to the island in 2012, and the registration on it is a UK plate 09. And now this person has not changed the registration since they brought it to the island. It's not taxed, it's not insured, it hasn't been for, 14, 15 years. And I've reported this to the police on 6 separate occasions, and today I still saw that person driving round.
Driving round?
Yeah. This person has not had tax and insurance on this car. They've not changed the registration from the UK 09 plate, and they brought it to the island in 2012. It's not been for an MOT. They've not changed the registration. There's no tax discs. There's no insurance on it, and they're still driving round. And I've reported it 6 separate occasions, and not once has any officer gone and had a look.
Can you leave your detail with Manx Radio? I'll get my staff officer to look into that.
I'll be more than happy to, because my concern is that this particular person is extremely fast in a 20-mile-an-hour zone, and that's the only reason I reported it.
Okay, Mark, we've got your details, and if, with your permission, we'll give them. That's the 7th time you've reported it. I'm guessing something's going to get done now. I don't think we've got time to do. Have we got time to do Bullgate, Chief Constable?
Yeah. So I mean, I've seen that rhetoric, which obviously pervades social media sites, and I just want to pick up on that. So, what I'm going to explain to you is based on fact and evidence, not rumour or conjecture, informed by the itinerary of experts on social media. So, this is the top and bottom of it. So the police get called to a bull that's out of control, albeit contained up at the meat plant. So that's through the 9 system. So we're en route, we travel. They was in the process of trying to destroy the bull. En route, we get a further call saying the bull's actually escaped from the meat plant. Ultimately, we locate the bull. Yes, it's in a field. It's in an insecure field. So my officers, who have clearly under the direction of a strategic firearms commander, which is no one below the rank of Chief Inspector, supported by a tactical firearms commander, which is no one below the rank of Inspector, and then the bronze commander there on the ground to direct activity in terms of addressing this potential threat in the form of a bull. So there's a command structure that's authorised the deployment of those armed officers. Those officers caught on social media by someone who's observing, and they're giving their narrative, which I have to say is well uninformed. So my officers contain the bull, and when I say contain in terms of firearms. There's some rumour conjecture around they shot the bull and they missed. Well, I can tell you they didn't. There's some criticism around the weaponry and the ammunition used. Well, what I'll say is that the weaponry and ammunition used is in keeping with the National Police Training Curriculum, and also in terms of the deployment in line with authorised professional practice for armed policing. Now, if they're thinking that we're going to penetrate the bull's skull with a bullet, they're absolutely wrong. The indication is that we put a bullet into the heart of the bull. There were several shots went into the bull to drop it. It wasn't cruelty. The bull was destined for destruction anyway. It was a request from the meat plant, who I understand at that time, up at the meat plant, had their welfare officer present, together with their online bull and individuals who were trained to destroy the bull and couldn't. So, as a contingency, my officers have been deployed. They have destroyed the bull using the appropriate weaponry. And I'm also mindful when people talk about shooting it with this rifle, that rifle, those projectiles using those rifles can go through the bull and carry on. Okay. My officers have got to be mindful of what the backdrop is behind that bull. So, in line with appropriate practice. Thank you.
Chief Constable's back in July. Thanks to Chris on production today. Enjoy your Thursday.